Part 1. Tragedy. Wrath is cruel, and anger is outrageous. But who is able to stand before envy? Proverbs, chapter 27, verse 4. Give sorrow words. The grief that does not speak whispers the o'er-fraught heart and bids it break. William Shakespeare. Chapter 1. For Thea, the very best part of summer started the second week of June. The last day of school earned a big red heart and meant she could start swimming and splashing around in the backyard pool, which she loved. She could ride her bike and play with her friends every day. Though they didn't call it playing anymore. Now they hung out. She was 12, after all. She liked cookouts and long summer days, and she especially liked no homework. But every year, just about a week after that big red heart day, she piled in the car with her mom, her dad, her little brother Rem, and their dog Coco. They started the long drive from Fredericksburg, Virginia, to Red Bud Hollow, Kentucky. Her mom grew up there, but had gone off to Virginia to college, where she met John Fox on the very first day in the very first class. And the rest, like they said, or like her dad said, was history. They married the summer after their sophomore year, and 10 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days after, she'd come along. Not quite 2 years later, Rem popped out. Now her dad designed houses, and her mom decorated them. Their company, Fox & Fox Homes, did just fine. She knew stuff. Grown-ups didn't think kids knew much of anything important, but she did. She knew her grandparents, her dad's parents, were rich and snooty, and didn't think much of her mom, the girl from eastern Kentucky. But her dad's parents lived out in San Diego, so they didn't have to see them much, which was more than fine with Thea. She didn't have to hear grandmother, that was the snooty name they had to call her, think her thoughts about how her mom laughed too loud or would never shake the Appalachian dust off her shoes. She could hear those thoughts if she tried hard enough, and when she had to visit grandmother, she couldn't seem to help it. She thought so loud. Grandmother and grandfather didn't seem to care that John and Cora Fox were happy, and even successful, that they all lived in a pretty house in a nice neighborhood, that Thea and Rem, or as they insisted, Althea and Remington, did even better than okay in school. But Grammy cared. They all talked on the phone every week on Sunday, and at Christmas time, Grammy drove up with her truck full of presents she'd made. Most of the time, her uncles, Waylon and Caleb, came too, so they had a big family party, and the house was all full of music and lights and the smells of baking. That was her second favorite time of the year. But the best time, even though they had to drive for 7 whole hours and sometimes more, came in June. They always left bright and early and passed the time with road trip bingo. Rem usually fell asleep, and sometimes she did too. But they always gave a hoot and holler when they crossed the line into Kentucky. They stopped for barbecue and hush puppies. That was tradition. She'd be hungry when they did, but always wished they could just keep going and get there. Keep going over roads that started to twist and climb, over bridges that spanned rushing rivers. She loved watching the mountains happen, those rolls and peaks of deep green that were somehow sort of blue, too. The plateaus and ridges, the forests and streams. And when she was in it, deep in those rolls and peaks where the road wound and wound, she knew her pretty house and really nice neighborhood in Virginia could never compare. She wondered how her mother could leave it all, and whenever she asked, Mom always said, "I had to meet your daddy, didn't I? Or else you wouldn't be here asking me." She knew it was more. She knew her mother had wanted that pretty house and nice neighborhood. Knew in her heart her mother had wanted to shake that Appalachian dust off her shoes. She didn't say so, or else Mom would get that look in her eye.